constituents of Ramaswamy's journey: his marriage with Madeline and his relationship with Savitri. These are of central importance in his life since both take him closer in different ways to an awareness of his own self and the ultimate meaning of existence that constitutes the search for a Brahmin like him. First, let us consider his marriage with Madeline. Since Rajarao has made Ramaswamy the narrator, everything in the novel is seen through his eyes. His marriage with Madeline and the reasons for its eventual failure are all available to us only through the reflections, statements, and observations of Ramaswamy. That is, we see this complex relationship entirely from his point of view. If the reader gives a complete and unqualified assent to Ramaswamy's views, he is bound to identify his own response with him. However sympathetic Ramaswamy is towards Madeline and her limitations, he is ultimately judging her from his own predilections. Hence, an attempt should be made to view Madeline's own individual role in this relationship. To put it differently, her standpoint should also be taken into account before any final judgment is passed on her marriage with Ramaswamy. This advantage is only given to the reader in a novel that employs such as a narrator scheme. The reader should pay special attention to a tendency often noticed in the narrator to gloss over his limitations and also to any possible discrepancies that may exist between his words and deeds. And only then can one be truly fair to Madeline's position in this coming together of two nationalities. The marriage of Ramaswamy and Madeline is the natural culmination of their interest in each other at various levels: physical, intellectual, and philosophic. Madeline has a kind of obsession with purity and touch, possibly the result of her interest in Cathras, and also an ascetic streak that finds a kindred soul in Ramaswamy, who also values them, for he is uncompromisingly Brahminical. He is an Indian, and being French, she loved India, for India was a cause to love, and also everything good for her has only come from India. Both of them sincerely strive for a successful marriage, and in their marriage, in the words of S. Nagarajan, two contrary world views, two contrary epistemologies come together, and the novel is a study of that encounter. These differences are evident to both of them, and she articulates it most beautifully in one of her letters to him. Your impersonal approach was strange to me. You yourself so impersonal. You people are sentimental about the invisible, we about the visible. Ramaswamy, while aware of the difference, is seemingly more at ease since for him the world was as you made it, and then he knows that to wed a woman you must wed her God, and reiterates again that the God of woman must be the God of her man. At this juncture, a very important episode of the Two Rings should be critically examined in some detail, because it is now that the first signs of the cracks in their marriage appear, and reasons can be sought in this episode for its eventual failure. Ramaswamy, who has come to India on hearing of his father's illness, is able to renew his Indian awareness through his pilgrimages to Benares, Hardwar, and other holy places. Little mother gives him two little toe rings of his mother to be given to Madeline, and his response is clear. I felt at last I was going to make Madeline mine, but due to the delay in his flight, he arrives late and feels that things were not going too well. He gives her the saree that was a gift from Saroja, and Madeline is naturally disappointed, for she expected it to be from him. As a Frenchwoman, she wishes it to be from her husband and seems to value less a gift from her sister-in-law. It is in these little details that the culture incompatibility between the two emerges to the surface, and when they try to make conversation, she asks him whether he hated the Europeans while he was in India, again a question that is unwarranted, and Rama replies frankly, "Hate them? You know the Englishman is more loved in India than foreigner has ever been. We forget evil easily. Naturally, we love the good." And Madeline is provoked to retort, so that the pariah may have his separate well, and the women slave for men. Ramaswamy is upset by this bitterness in her, while we realize that her remark is not without its basic in truth. But the damage has been done, and he feels that something has happened to everything. Madeline understandably queries, "I have failed your gods." His response is crucial. "No," I said, looking at her, and for some understandable reason I added, "You have failed me." How far is this justificable in the context of the given situation is the question. Is it a failure only on the part of Madeline, and is Ramaswamy entirely free from blame? The onus is on her. If we go by his remark, and it is true that Madeline has perhaps needlessly provoked him, this certainly prevents Ramaswamy giving her the two rings, but after a few days, he wants to put the past behind him and decides, "Yes, I would be happy with Madeline." But even here he sees the suitcases in a corner and shuts them away in a cupboard. Much later, while in London, he remarks, "The two rings remained in my trunk and I knew no peace." And finally, in the Radha Krishna episode, he puts them onto Savitri's toes. The two rings were the precise size for her. Little mother was right. For Madeline, they would have been too big. That he finds in Savitri a woman who can legitimately wear the two rings because she is deeply Indian is a perfectly valid decision of his. His decision not to give the two rings to Madeline is also partly determined by his renewed awareness of the Indian woman born out of observing the burgeoning of Saroja into womanhood during his visit to India. This awareness makes him realize that what he actually missed in one like Madeline. One of Ramaswamy's generalizations about the relationships and its validity with reference to the actual incidents in the novel throws new light on his judgment. He remarks, "Madeline had never participated in my superstitions, though I had in hers. But what actually follows in the novel amounts to a flat denial of this remark, as Madeline's involvement with his superstitions is both sincere and total. Like Ramaswamy, She takes the used flat stone near their garden for Nandi bull and offers it grass and flowers. On seeing this, Ramaswamy frankly confesses, "The Hindu in me used to be so happy, and when their neighbor starts hammering away at the rock, her reaction is quite genuine. My heart bled as thought something terrible was going to happen." On her plea, the neighbor Scarlatti relents and the bull is saved. And rather curiously, the bull seemed to communicate both happy and sad news to her that Ramaswamy is sure that in some past life Madeline must have been an Indian woman. So we see that Madeline makes genuine attempts to share her husband's superstitions in order to come closer to him. But the point to be reckoned in their marriage is that Madeline is sadly unable to go behind these little gestures. For instance, when Ramaswamy leaves for India on hearing of his father's illness, he would have very much liked to take Madeline along with him to India. He admits, "To me, Madeline's presence would have meant the daughter-in-law coming home. The division of family responsibility. Truly, it would have been the crossing of the threshold. I almost felt that if she came, father could not die. He would not die. How, when the first daughter-in-law came home, could the father die?" But Madeline does not go to India. On the other hand, Ramaswamy, in spite of his Indianness, is able to relate himself very convincingly with the members of Madeline's family. Uncle Charles, Tante Juby, and Catherine. He can feel that Uncle Charles in the house was like an elder brother, and he has such love and affection for Catherine that she tells him, "You are my godfather of happiness." Even little mother, without ever having seen Madeline, takes interest in her welfare and prays for her as well. The differences that come to the surface on Ramaswamy's return from India are accentuated further through his meetings with Savitri. She makes him aware of what Madeline is not, and also of what he has been missing in his married life. But it is not correct to suggest, as M.K. Naik does, that, conscious of the growing rift, Ramaswamy and Madeline desperately seek and find temporary fulfillment in sex. Their relationship has a beautiful physical side to it, but that is never seen by them as the only basis for their living together. The final break comes with the death of their second child, an event that occurs while Ramaswamy is away in India for Saroja's marriage. On his return to France, he finds rather ominously that life had changed everywhere. And surely enough, he sees change in his wife's lifestyle. She has now become deeply ascetic and follows Buddhist rituals like fasting, counting of beads, and chanting of mantras. What has driven her to this state is the premature death of the second child. Her involvement in Buddhism should be discussed at some length. As a teacher of history, she was interested in tracing the origin of the Holy Grail in the Cathars, and she puts forward a theory that the Holy Grail was originally a Buddhist relic that later came to the West via Persia. But soon she abandons her work on the Holy Grail and turns to Buddhism, for she is fascinated by its intellectual virility, and the deep compassion of the Buddha. And this interest in Buddhism had, as Rama says, given her a conscious foothold in India. After all, she herself had written to Ramaswamy that India is infectious, mysterious, and infectious. No doubt, after the child's death, she begins to practice a more ritualistic form of Buddhism and moves away from him. That is, only physically. You might say there was a clear, pure space between us. Something had happened to Madeline. But what is very credible and convincing is the thoroughness with which she takes on this new role. Once again, typical of Westerner, this elicits a sincere response from Ramaswamy. You are more of a Brahmin than I. There is no irony here, for he says again a little later that she is more of an Indian than me. She already knows more about Buddhism than I do. But this conversion brings in many notable changes in Madeline. She grows happier, her classes becomes brilliant, her colleagues, her administrators, and even inspectors are all praised for her work, and she is their Simon Weil. Rama remarks, even I received a little of this veneration. They thought I was the noble cause of this transformation of Madeline. Her face shines with a glow of truth between her eyes, and Ramaswamy acknowledges that she looked a saint. I worshipped her. At the same time, she grows sentimental about crushed pansies, wounded centipedes, and caterpillars. Ramaswamy, with his intellectual awareness, can say her insight into Buddhism was more psychic than religious. But Madeline has made up her mind. Her path has been chosen, the path of renunciation of the flesh. However, her concern for Ramaswamy needs to be examined. Her attention to little details that constitute the duties of a wife has been earlier expressed by Ramaswamy. There was nothing I needed which she did not know beforehand and bring to me my medicine after lunch, my handkerchief when I started on a walk, my pencil duly sharpened and laid on my notebook. But now it assumes more significant overtones. She undertakes a 41-day fast to pray for his health, telling him, you must be cured. And she also tells him later of what she has been praying for in his absence. I have prayed night after night. As you said, Emperor Babur prayed for his son Umayyan that I be taken away in your place. You are young, you are a man, you have it to live. When I knew you first, you were such a sprightly, vivacious being. It is I who brought all this on you. I am only a log of flesh, and anyone can take my place, but you are the head of the family. What is clear here is that her conversation to Buddhism is not something that is solely intellectual, which does not take into account human considerations. Though one suspects a slight touch of cynicism in the last two sentences, she, on occasions, sounds cruel as when Ramaswamy confronts her on his return from London. She asks him, why did you come? To see you. You cannot see anything but the 18 aggregates. But 18 aggregates can see 18 aggregates, I said, laughing. Then it is no business of mine, she said, and started counting beads. This cruelty has to be seen in relation to her conversion to Buddhism. No doubt, the beginnings of her interest in Buddhism were sincere, but towards the end they certainly take a rather debased form of worship, ritual, and fasting. And when she accuses Ramaswamy of being the major cause for the change in her, it's you who have brought me all this. She is being more than unfair to him. And at the end, she writes to Catherine expressing her desire to divorce Ramaswamy, for he must marry someone younger from his own country. He will be happy with an Indian woman, I have no doubt. In this case, it is rather difficult to sympathize with Madeline, for we would have expected her to talk it over with Ramaswamy in a responsible, adult manner. It is, however, true that the death of their two children has driven her to regard her marriage as a total failure. Let me now check your progress by asking you few questions. Your ability to answer them will reveal your understanding of the novel. Have you formed some kind of general idea about the distinctive nature of the novel after reading this unit? What is the theme of the novel, The Serpent and the Rope? Discuss the importance of the narrative technique of the novel. Write an essay on Ramaswamy's search. Account for the failure of Ramaswamy Madeline marriage. Let's go now summing up. After reading or listening the first unit, you should have come to an understanding of the primary features of the novel, The Serpent and the Rope. You have also learned about the writer, the uniqueness of the novel and its major themes, the centrality of the narrative strategy used by Rao in the novel should also be clear to you by now. What constitutes Ramaswamy's search? His main mission in life has been discussed in the unit. The marriage of Ramaswamy and Madeline and the consequent problems must be also familiar to you.